Good afternoon. You're listening to Gambling with an Edge. Now here are your hosts, Bob Dancer and Richard Munchkin.
Good afternoon. Welcome to Gambling with an Edge. I'm Bob Dancer.
And I'm Richard Munchkin.
And to celebrate the holiday season, Richard and I are going back to our mailbag again. So this show is between Christmas and New Year's in the Kwanzaa season and a little bit late for Hanukkah, but whatever you celebrate, if you celebrate, we hope your holidays are doing well.
And Happy New Year to everyone.
And Happy New Year to everyone. One question I have, how do you identify the payout on a slot machine? Are machines preset with a specific payout percent that remains constant for the life of the machine, or is that changed electronically by the casino as needed? Okay, slot machines have settings that can be changed by the casino. A given slot machine may play at 86%, 88%, 90%, 92%, etc. Each casino has its own philosophy on how loose to make the machines. Sometimes casinos retain the same return on the game for the life of the machine, sometimes they don't. It's not always true, but the casinos that have the loosest video poker usually have the loosest slots. And the payout on most video poker machines is easy to figure out using software or the data on videopoker.com.
Also, in some jurisdictions, they tell you what the percentage is on the machine. I think Australia is like that. So there is a way to look up what the payout is on any given machine in some countries, not the U.S.
Yes, in the U.S., some jurisdictions have an overall slot hold for the casino, which we will talk about a bit later due to another question. But that doesn't tell you much about a specific machine because the average for the entire casino is based over hundreds or thousands of machines.
And actually, in Nevada, isn't there a maximum hold on machines? I think there's some number they can't go beyond. But
yeah, I believe that number in Nevada is 85%, but I'm not positive of that. Next one, this is for Richard. What is your favorite carnival game to exploit and why? And what is your best favorite story related to that question?
Well, first of all, I'm retired, so there isn't a favorite. I could say my least favorite is three-card poker. I really did not like playing that game, and the edge was very small, the variance was very high, usually the limits were pretty low, so that was my least favorite. I guess my favorites, I mean, I don't want to name a game that might be currently out there because that may put heat on that particular game in some places, but I guess my favorite would be when there was a brand new game. So often casinos don't know what's going on when they have a brand new game that's being tested, or it's just new to that casino. But there's something fun about attacking a brand new game that hasn't been exploited before.
Yeah, and I haven't played a lot of carnival games. One I recall, which I don't think there's out there anymore, was a game called 7-14-21. And this was invented by the people at Leading Edge Designs, who were the same people who invented Multi-Strike and a few other games. And I had become friends with them over the years. They've been on the show a few times. And they sent me the rules and what they thought the best strategy was. And it was currently at the Palms in and they said, you actually have the advantage and you may get some kind of mailers. So I learned the strategy and played it, got lucky, and won fairly good size because it happened that I was dealt the premium hand, which was 1 in a 2,000 or 1 in 3,000 event when I had a big bet out, and then I got mailers on it. But Short-term variance has nothing to do with long-term carnival games. All right, so a similar question for me was, what is your favorite video poker game to play and why? And my answer is, I like the one with the highest expected value today, whether it's because of slot club promotions, denominations, etc. Assuming I know or can get up to speed on that game quickly. If it's some ultimate X variation where I don't have a strategy, or it's a very complicated strategy to another game I don't know, I'm not interested. Although periodically I have paid good money to get a mathematician to figure out a game for me, learn that, and have exploited games. But among games with approximately equal returns, I like deuces, wild variations, and quick quads. I think those are the most fun to play. But basically, I'll play any game that I think I can do well at. Next question. Thank you for the great show. I have a question. I'm curious, this IGT video poker game, do they allow casinos to specifically change a payline? For example, change 9 for 1 to 10 for 1 for full house and 9-6 jacks or better. Or change straight flushes from 50 for 1 to an arbitrary number like 61 for 1. Or can they only pick from a predefined pay schedules in the game? I'm curious if any casino has mistakenly offered 2 for 1 for 2 pair and double bonus, for example. There are several generations of IGT machines still found in casinos. In games built since 1990 or so, casinos must choose from specific options, and not all options are available in all states. On older machines, which is before I played, but were still around when I started in 1993, casinos had much more leeway in selecting pay schedules, and mistakes were made. Back when the then called Stratosphere, now called Strat, opened, they had extra generous pay schedules on some machine. Instead of 9-6 jacks or better, they had 10-6 or 9-7, and 9, actually both. Instead of paying bonuses on 2s through 4 in bonus poker, they paid bonuses on 2s to 6s. These were intentional, well advertised. I don't know if they can be done today. Occasionally, games are mismarked. I remember one time Richard was, when he was out of town for a visit, I always said he's off to play a secret game, and which sometimes meant he was in Arizona to visit his brother. But this time he actually was off to play a secret game. It had to do with there was a video poker machine that was mismarked, and Richard was part of a group of people who went off to exploit that. Do you remember anything about that play, Richard?
Yeah, well, it's exactly what you said. It was misprogrammed, so it wasn't paying the way that it should. And the interesting thing about it was, and first of all, it was not my play. I didn't find it. Someone called me. I was fortunate just to get a phone call to be a part of it. And it was a very sharp group of guys who I thought had a very, very good approach to how to best exploit it, because a lot of people take advantage of these things and they get burned out almost immediately. And so our approach was there were some ploppy people who had kind of discovered the machine. Actually, there was one in particular, an elderly woman who had discovered it and had been playing it, and so it was decided to lock the machine up 24 hours a day. And in addition, the error on the machine is something that if someone noticed it, they would immediately see that the machine was paying grossly wrong on the pay schedule. So not only did we play it 24 hours a day in shifts, but we also had a blocker who would sit in the machine next to it so that some ploppy couldn't be playing next to you and happen to notice it. So yeah, I thought we did really well. I think we took about as much as could have been taken off that machine, and it took, I don't know, a week to 10 days or something before it was discovered and shut down.
Yeah, and one other thing I think you did on that play was you cashed out tickets when they got to be a certain level. If you didn't cash out tickets early, then they would easily grow up to 1,000 or 2,000 or 3,000 or 4,000 and make it obvious when you tried to cash them. But if you cashed them all out when they got above 500 or 800 or whatever your magic number was, then you could cash those fairly easily with no problem.
That's correct. And also they had a number of kiosks and cash out windows. And we also had no player win over $9,000. So rather than working a certain number of hours, you would play until you had accumulated $9,000 in tickets, so that they couldn't try to claim you were trying to avoid a CTR by cashing out these tickets. So yeah, so that was also something we did.
Yeah, and more than just avoiding the CTR, they couldn't accurately accuse you of structuring.
Right. Yes, exactly. And the other thing was we did not want to have any hand pays. So, for example, we would never hold a single high card where you might draw 4 and catch a royal. We did not want to catch any royals. So if you were dealt a royal, you would throw away one of the cards.
Well, if you're dealt a royal, usually in machine.
Oh yeah, that's right. Actually, that's right. It dealt royal. That did happen one time. Somebody got a dealt royal. The machine locked up, and fortunately, in paying it off, they didn't notice the mispay on the machine.
But if you were dealt like ace, king, queen, jack, suited, and another card, where normally you throw the other card away, say a prayer, and go for the royal, now you would probably throw away the ace and the other card.
Yeah.
And hoping for a king high straight flush or king high straight or something, but you didn't want to take any chance on the royal. All right, good. I've actually been wanting Richard to talk about that play for some time without violating any secrecies or the other people involved, and I'm glad we finally at least got to mention it. If you ask either one of us to give more details as to where and when this was, you are going to be met with a stone wall. Next question. I play Ultimate X video poker in Atlantic City. What is more important to the players, the pay cable on the game or the casino hold published monthly by the regulators? And my answer is the pay schedule on the individual game by far. The published casino hold is an average of hundreds or thousands of games for many denomination. An average hold of 93%, say on all machines, includes many slot machines receiving lower than that, some video poker machines receiving higher than that. And if you compare two casinos, with one with 93% average hold and one with 94% average hold, there will be many games in the one with 93% that pay better than the casino with 94%. So you just kind of have to learn how to, on video poker specifically, it's fairly easy. In the for Ultimate X, the best source for how much a game pays is probably the pro video poker software on videopoker.com, where it gives accurate strategies or accurate play on the hands for all triple play and 5-play games of the basic Ultimate X variation that has ever been delivered. So a lot of them are going to be 96% or 97%, but it'll still give you the accurate play. You'll have to work out your own strategy, and it's not trivial to do so, but it will tell you what the percent return is, and the information is there if you want to exploit it. Next question. I want to know what is your recommendation on the best coupon books in Las Vegas in regards to buffets, but also promotional casino play. I know about the Las Vegas Advisor, but the American Casino Guide also has one. Which one do you recommend? Since I don't visit Vegas often, I plan to go to different casinos and sign up for Players Card for promotional play and use these coupons as well. And my answer is you don't have to choose between the coupon books. Use them both. They both pay for themselves if your game plan is to go around to casinos and cash what you can. Almost 30 years ago, books of this type, which were much more plentiful then and actually much more profitable, allowed me to survive in Las Vegas when my skills were not good enough to win without using these coupons. These days, I don't want to drive around and pick up $5 here and $10 there, but it still remains a low variance ways to obtain relatively small amounts of money.
Things changed with COVID, so the books are not worth as much as they used to be, at least in terms of gaming things. I know Anthony Curtis has been on the show complaining about how, some places just don't want to give away anything anymore, even a free drink. So, but I agree with Bob, do both. Can't hurt.
All right, next question. My question is regarding what you do about getting large amounts of cash into the bank. Let's assume the player has reported income honestly and paid all taxes owed. Now, by the way, that's a huge assumption. Perhaps my anxiety is baseless, but it seems as though the bank would still freak out over somebody showing up with $100,000 or more in cash deposit, or at the very least, such a large transaction might trigger an audit from the IRS or other form of investigation. What's the best way to go about making such a deposit? Now, I'm going to handle this one separately from Richard, simply because my experiences in video poker and his experiences on this subject aren't. In video poker, to obtain that much cash or money, you need to hit big jackpots, usually a royal flush. Depending on how much cash I have on hand, I'll frequently take a jackpot of $25,000 or higher in the form of a check, and then I deposit the check. I've had no problem depositing large checks in my banks. For cash, I keep money in safety deposit boxes all around town. This allows me to cash at the casinos without having to transport it back and forth. When I run out of cash in these safety deposit boxes, I simply take a marker for $20,000 or so, play on it a while, and pay it off with a check. This has not been a problem. Now, Richard has played more in cash, and I'll let him address the problems of getting that into and out of a bank. Richard.
Yeah, you didn't answer the question there, Bob. First of all, it depends on where you are. Some banks are better than others. My father taught me very young that it's a really good idea to get to know your banker. They can be really helpful to you. I would say if you were going to try to do this, Las Vegas is a much better place to try to do it than other parts of the country. I have deposited $100,000 into my bank account in cash. They don't like it, but they accepted it. Some banks are better than others. Some banks are very quick to bar players. Many people don't realize this, but banks bar people. If you have too many cash deposits and withdrawals, they close your account and tell you, we don't want your action here anymore. So Wells Fargo is particularly bad about it. But as I say, I would go to the banker and try to get to know them and say, look, I am in a cash business. I'm going to have some very large deposits. and see and feel them out about it. One thing I definitely would not do is do not try to deposit it less than $10,000 at a time. It's much better to put in 90,000 all at once than 10 deposits of 9,000. I mean, it's illegal to do the 10 deposits of 9,000. And for me, I want to have deposits over 10,000. I want them to see CTRs under my name so that the government sees that I'm not trying to hide anything. So if you're a table games player, it's hard to get the casino to write you a check. But I mean, unless you're not an advantage player that doesn't play with a card. If you have a big winning session and you're playing on a card, it is probably possible for them to write you a check for the money.
But going there with chips and say, go ahead and write a check, but leave the name blank and I'll fill it in later.
Make it out to cash. But then you have the same problem. I mean, the guy's trying to get the money into his account. So, and interestingly, let's say that you showed up to a casino and you put the $100,000 on deposit in the casino cage. And now you did some playing, and at the end you say, so can you just give me a check for my money? They can't. Not only do they have to pay you back in cash, they have to give you back the same bills that you gave them because of all these crazy FinCEN laws now that the government is imposed on the casinos. But if you win, you can take the winnings in a check.
So, and if you lose it all, they don't have to give you back the specific bills. That might be a good strategy, huh?
Yeah.
All right, next question. I play 9-6 jacks or better at my favorite casino in Las Vegas. I understand this is an expected return of 99.54%. My slot clubs offers 1 point for every $3 of coin in. A point has an objective value of 1 cent for purchases on casino property, and I do value that at 1 cent. I believe this is therefore worth an extra 0.33%. During promotional periods, the slot club doubles this amount so that 2 points are awarded per $3 of coin in. Am I correct in believing that such promotion periods, and assuming this is a big assumption, that I play perfectly, that my EV is 99.54% plus 0.66% or 100.20%? I'm a good player, but not perfect. Using videopoker.com, I can tell you that I make about 3 mistakes per 1,000 hands. Do I have an actual edge with my play during the promo periods? Well, your math is correct. But to me, receiving 0.67 in purchasing power at a casino is not at all the same as 0.67 in cash or free play. Even if you value the comp points at face value, you're still playing at a disadvantage and paying retail for your meals. Also, 3 errors per 100,000 hands doesn't tell how big the errors are. If your errors are minor, such as only holding the 3 royal cards from a suited ace, king, 10, 4, when you have another 10 in the hand, then your errors essentially cost you virtually nothing. If you occasionally just hold a pair of kings from king, king, 4, 4, 5, these errors cost a whole lot. So when you're playing on videopoker.com, they have a choice as to how tough to make the questions. If you're playing on the toughest level, then your errors are, then 3 errors per 1,000 is pretty good. If you're playing on the lowest level, 3 errors per 1,000 isn't such a good deal, because sometimes you're going to be dealt a full house, and it's not hard how to play that. Next question. I need a pointer from Bob. I play 2 games almost exclusively, Deuces Wild and Jacks Are Better. I know the strategy for each one very well. My problem is this. While I'm playing, perhaps once an hour, maybe twice, I forget which game I'm playing and I make the wrong hold. Is there a simple memory tip to remind oneself? If you interrupted me while playing and said, close your eyes and tell me which game you're playing, I'd get that right 100% of the time. But it's while making the hold that I forget for a millisecond, which is too long. I'm in my early 60s, so I can't say it's from old age, or can I? Well, it's a problem. And everyone needs to figure out how to solve this by himself or herself. If you continue to make these mistakes, you're better off only playing 1 game, not 2. Now, I sometimes play the senior citizen card to forgive myself when I make an occasional mistake of this nature, and I'm a decade older than you are. But whether you use the old age as an excuse or not, it's still a costly mistake. Next question. Thanks for the podcast. I have 2 video poker questions I hope you can help me on. I sometimes play Jacks Are Better, playing either progressive games of positive EV or 9-6 games to earn comps. Recently, I played quite a bit of 9-6 Jacks Are Better spin poker, 9 lines with max bets. Maybe I'm in a downswing, but I've lost a total of about $4,000 on a quarter machine in the past 4 or 5 months. Just seemed lost every session. I hit royals on 1 line once, but obviously that's not good enough. My question is, I thought the strategy should be the same as the 1 line game. Is that true? And secondly, how much bankroll is needed for the swing for that game? Okay. Losing $4,000 on quarter 9-6 Jacks Are Better spin poker is a lot, but these things happen. Yes, the strategy is the same as the single line game, and the best assumption going forward is that it will return 99.54% with swings. There's no built-in mechanism to either continue your unlucky streak or make up for that and let you win big. One or the other is going to happen, but there's no way to tell in advance which one it's going to be. How much bankroll you need depends on the slot club. If the slot club and promotions do not exceed 0.5%, then the bankroll you need is infinite. Next question. Among machine APs, what sort of opportunities are considered more basic? That is, something that's only worth the time if you're just getting started building a bankroll. And what sort of opportunities are considered juicier? That is, something professionals would deem worth their time. So, this is a variation of the question we get a lot of, namely, tell me your best plays so I don't have to figure it out myself.
Tell me where there's money laying on the floor that I can just go pick up.
Yeah, publicizing these plays usually has the effect of killing them sooner or later, so I have no constructive answers to your question. Richard, do you have anything helpful?
Nope.
And but now you mentioned it. Do you know where any money is lying on the floor? I could use some. Next question. Thanks for taking the time to answer our questions. I'm a part-time card counter and I'm unfamiliar with exactly what I should do with regards to taxes. I know that all gambling winnings are taxable, but as APs, what practically makes sense? Should I expect to just get taxed when my bankroll goes back into my bank accounts? What advice do you have and where can I find out more information? Now, we have a tax expert, Russell Fox, on this program twice a year, and we've had it for like several years now. He addresses this question in variation on most of his visits. Go back and listen to some of them. Do you have any more than this, Richard?
Well, yeah, the number one thing is you need to keep a log. So you need to record every day, the date, the casino, and how much you won or lost. And that is your record of your wins and losses for the year. So at the very least, start doing that.
Yep. We'll do one more question and then we're going to break for commercials. I'm sure that's the favorite part of all our listeners.
Oh, wait. I'm sorry. One other thing.
Yes.
Las Vegas Huntington Press has a book called Tax Help for Gamblers or something like that. Russell Fox is one of the authors, so you might pick up that book as well.
Yes, and Gene Scott and Marissa Chen collaborated on the earlier versions of this. Since Russell Fox became a co-author, there have been several reports that the book is a lot more useful. Next question. I was trespassed at my local casino for counting cards. I was an idiot and played rated in my real name. They kicked me out.
If only there was a show where they recommended to people not to do that.
Yeah, it's they kicked me out approximately 2 years ago and later sent me a written letter saying I was banned and will potentially be arrested if I attempted to return. The casino will soon be opening a poker room, and I'd really like to play poker there. I should mention I was a losing player overall at this casino, and I've played there for a few years. It's the casino closest to my home and will potentially have a ton of poker action from drunk conventioneers, visitors, etc. Is there any way for me to get unbanned enough to be able to play poker there? How do I do that? After all, playing poker means I potentially win nothing from the casino, only wagering with other players, and the casino still gets their rake. I texted my former host and was told he couldn't communicate with me due to the ban. I'd be willing to hire an attorney and pay legal fees if it meant I could get the ban reversed. Have you ever known anyone to be unbanned? Who can I hire to help? Do you have anything on this, Richard?
So I would say a couple of things. I have had at least one friend I can think of who had been 86 from a place and used to go in and play poker, and they did come and throw him out again. They didn't arrest him, but they did come throw him out when they realized he was in there playing poker, which, I think is ridiculous because the casino is profiting off you if you're playing poker there. I wouldn't recommend that if you're playing in a tournament or anywhere where you might have to fill out a tax form if you win, because then they're going to realize it's you and may try to stiff you. I do know people, I believe Andy Block was able to get reinstated at Caesars basically so that he could play poker. So it has happened. It really depends on the management of your particular casino. I have never heard of a host saying, I'm not allowed to speak to you. I mean, what kind of host is that? Like, he's really that worried about speaking to you because they told him not to? That just seems ridiculous to me. You could try, but again, it just depends on whether the management is a thinking human being or just a corporate drone who is just going to say no to everything. I don't know that there's any legal way to do it. I mean, unless you're in Missouri or Atlantic City or something where they're not allowed to bar you for being a card counter.
But having an attorney representing you might be a good idea if you tend to get emotional in arguments. Some people can discuss things civilly and back and forth well, and some people get really emotional really fast, and then it gets out of hand. So an attorney who understands what the situation is possibly could do well.
Actually, I would add this. I've heard these stories. This isn't about gambling, but I've heard stories where people write a personal letter to, like, the CEO of the company. And if you're a good letter writer, sometimes if you jump over all of the mid-level drones and go right to the top, sometimes you can be effective in that way. Now, it may just get ignored and thrown in a slush pile, but I mean, it's a free shot. And again, if you're not a great letter writer, then yeah, maybe have the attorney do it. Although that may sort of get their hackles up, like, what, are you threatening me with an attorney kind of thing, as opposed to just a very heartfelt, look, I'm not a bad guy. I just want to be able to play poker and eat in the restaurants. I had another friend who had that kind of situation where he went to conventions and things in that particular casino, and he wanted to eat in the restaurants and spend money in them, things like that. So if you make a good appeal, I mean, there's a chance. It just, as I say, it just depends on who's on the receiving end of the letter.
Very good. And with that, we're going to take a brief commercial break. The South Point has more than 10,000 games returning at least 99%. This is more than anyone else has. In January, Mondays through Thursdays, 3 a.m. to 3 a.m., there is a spin to win promotion. Earn 2,000 points at video poker or 500 at slots and spin a virtual wheel. Limit 4 spins per day. The points awarded range between 2,500 points, worth $7.50, and 100,000 points, worth $300. The free slot play awarded ranges between $5 to $100. In prior years, these spins averaged about $12 each. Until I have more data, that's my best guess as to the value of the spins. Starting next week, I may or may not have more information, as we'll probably tape this show on January 3rd, and so at most I will have had 1 day's information, which is not really much to make a good estimate on. On Monday, January 17th, Martin Luther King holiday, there will be a $32,000 hot seat promotion from 8 a.m. to midnight. Every 3 minutes, a lucky player earns $100 in free play. Since this is also a day where the spin to win promotion is in place, this is a chance for you to double dip on promotions.
Hey, this is Colin from Blackjack Apprenticeship, and if you're serious about card counting, I'm sure Bob and Richard would agree that there are 3 things every advantage player needs to succeed. You need to gain the edge over the house, you need to manage your bankroll, and you need to get the hours in at the casinos. After a decade of playing professionally and running teams, I wanted to create the exact training, tools, and community I wished I had had for myself and my blackjack teams, so we created the Blackjack Apprenticeship membership. Our membership will help you perfect your game, manage your bankroll, and you'll join a supportive community of like-minded card counters and APs. Find out more at blackjackapprenticeship.com.
Videopoker.com is the best place to play lots of games. If you sign up for the gold membership, $8.95 a year or $79.90. I better say that again. If you sign up for the gold membership, $8.95 a month or $79.95 a year, this allows you to get correction on most of the games. The game of the week is Ultimate X Wheel Poker, one of the many offerings in the Ultimate X franchise. In this game, you bet 10 coins per line and are awarded bonuses on this hand to be played off next hand. The difference is that instead of 12x being the multiplier you earn for the full house, as you do in regular Ultimate X, you spin a wheel. On the wheel are amounts of coins, 250, 500, up to 2,000, and several slots earning you big multipliers for the next hand, between 14x and 20x. If you earn a multiplier, you get the normal pay for a full house, frequently 45 coins, times whatever multiplier you already have. If you earn a point bonus, you get the normal pay for full house times the existing multiplier, and then the bonus times the existing multiplier. As in regular Ultimate X, induces wild variations. It's a straight flush that triggers the big bonus rather than full house. You'll need a different strategy for this game compared to regular Ultimate X, as the multipliers for a full house are bumped up and other things are lowered. In most Ultimate X versions, 5 play returns more than triple play. This is not always the case in this game. All right, we are back to our mailbag. Someone says he's a professional poker player. He's considering branching off into some AP activities. I'm concerned it would burn some bridges with casinos I want to play at some point. Caesars Properties is a good example since they own the WSOP. Considering the time and effort involved in properly engaging the AP life, it appears that the limitations I'd have to adhere to could exclude me from the best opportunities, making it worth even less. Is there any advice you could give that would be helpful in managing or mitigating these risks? Or is it not available to engage in AP activities as a poker player wanting to remain welcome in most casinos?
Well,
Richard.
Go back 10 minutes and listen to the last question. If you do this, do not use a player's card. But if I don't know how serious a professional poker player you are, but if the WSOP is really important to you, then I would not do something that would jeopardize your being able to play in the WSOP. I'm sure you've heard many of the stories of the guys one guy who was thrown out mid-tournament, right, when he was, I think, chip leader in a particular event. So if you're making a lot of money as a professional poker player, then I would not play at Caesars Properties, because they are the type that will 86 you from all properties, and that would follow you around.
And although Caesars is now El Dorado and we don't know exactly what the rules are going to be going forward, the best assumption is they're not going to be more player friendly, but we'll have to see over time. And one thing Richard didn't say explicitly, but he implied, is that if you're not going to play AP stuff at Caesars Properties, there are still non-Caesars properties where you can. So you just want to separate the casinos where you're going to play poker from casinos where you're going to do AP. In some markets, there are several of each. In other markets, not so much. All right, next question. Hi, Bob. I really appreciate you answering my last question on the listener email segment. I remember you saying that someone told you they wanted to be a professional gambler and you told them to save up a bankroll of $10,000. His plans changed when he met someone. My question is that still possible in today's gambling to start with a $10,000 bankroll, or would you need more? For those of you who didn't hear the particular episode referred to, the story this particular listener is referring to concerns somebody I mentioned in my $1 Million Video Poker autobiography who had heard about Shirley's and my frequent $20,000 and $40,000 royal flushes at the MGM Grand and had visited us in the mansion there. He wanted me to teach him how to play, and I told him that first he had to make the effort to accumulate $10,000 and then I'd teach him. This particular player got distracted before he accumulated that much bankroll. That was 20 years ago. Video poker opportunities in Las Vegas were much more plentiful and lucrative then than they are now. And the MGM in particular was being managed by slot executives who were arithmetically challenged and who were literally giving away the store. I'm pretty sure their slot executives are more competent these days. If somebody were starting from scratch, video poker should probably not be their main game used as a gateway to riches. It is still possible to make money at that game, and it can definitely supplement other income, but it is much more difficult than it used to be.
Yeah, but 10,000 I think is a good starting bankroll for someone getting into AP. I agree with Bob. I wouldn't go into video poker. But the problem that you will have is there is no clear roadmap on how to do it. You can learn how to count cards, but that probably would not be enough. And in order to learn it's going to be difficult, and it'll all be about how well you network and the friends that you make. And, you can get ideas listening to past episodes of this show about how to get involved in slots and card counting and other things. But it's not like you can pick up a book anymore and just go out and earn a living.
Okay, next question. I remember Cache Creek, where cash is spelled C-A-C-H-E, in Northern California. They had a 2-to-1 blackjack promotion in the early 90s when they first expanded and offered blackjack. This was when you had to pay a commission, and there was a player's bank pool that was used for the wins and losses of the blackjack game. The casino was supposedly not allowed to take any of the blackjack losses as profit, and they went into the player's pool. Just wanting to know if you had the chance to partake in this promotion. I was just 19 or 20 years old, but I remember hearing about people flying in from all over just to play. Now, I did not hear about this promotion at the time and did not play it. Richard?
Yeah, so this is called Class 2 gaming, and it's exactly as you say. The casino they can only profit on taking an ante per hand. So the money goes into a pool and then is distributed through these kinds of promotions. I didn't play Cache Creek. I did play a 2-to-1 blackjack promotion at, I believe it was called Table Mountain near Fresno. This is where I famously lost $20,000 with a $100 max bet on a 2-to-1 blackjack promotion. So, it made me realize that, 2-to-1 on blackjack, you can't play these games with such a small edge. But so I did play that particular promotion. It was in Fresno. And, here's a story. So some of these casinos are more honest about that player's pool than others. And I remember the first time I went to Oklahoma where they had this same kind of setup. And I was on a game and I said to the dealer, like, when do they have the promotions to give the players pool away? And the dealer just shook his head and said, never. He goes, I've complained to the gaming commission twice, but they just keep all the money. So that was many, many years ago. So I don't know how things may have changed since then. But
All right, next question. Can you explain why so many people in your industry use fake names? Why? I find it quite bizarre. Well, for me, I used a pseudonym for privacy reasons. I thought it would improve my longevity as a player, which I believe it did. When I started using the name Bob Dancer, I had no idea that I would become relatively famous as a player and a writer. Now, other people have had their own reasons for doing so. Richard, there's a chance that Munchkin isn't the name on your driver's license. Do you have any comment on this?
Well, I thought he was talking about when you play in the casino. And the reason is that table games players get thrown out all the time. So if I go in and I say, my name is Bob Smith, and I get thrown out, well, the next time I go in, I can't tell them my name is Bob Smith. So next time I become Bob Jones. And that is why most people use fake names when they play in casinos. They don't want the casinos knowing who they really are.
Okay. And this was actually, I didn't read the entire question. I edited it. So in the example, he gave the names of several writers and authors.
Oh, okay. Well, so that's the other thing. Yeah, often writers, actors, musicians, film people have nom de plume or nom de guerre. So, yeah, it's very common for writers to use another name. In my particular case, Munchkin started as a nickname. I started acting when I was 13 years old. And when I got to Hollywood, I decided to keep it because, people in the film industry said it's memorable. Nobody's going to forget that name. So in my particular case, that's why I kept it.
Well, well, it must be true. I have don't forget the name of my co-host, that's for sure.
Well, yeah, give it another couple of years.
All right. I've been told from a host at a tribal casino that if you do anything at the casino that involves your player's card, like entering a VIP parking lot or getting a discount on food, you have announced your presence and that any gambling or no gambling goes onto your average coin in. So if you don't plan to play much or not at all, should you not use your card? Not my personal host, by the way. And do you know if this is true for MGM, Caesars, etc.? So for me, I don't know for sure, but I would act like it is true that if you announce yourself at all, you could possibly be tripped. If you must use your card to pick up free play, then you make a calculation on whether the expected value from picking up the free play is worth the lowering of your average daily theoretical. Like I get offers from Las Vegas Caesars property to go in and pick up $10 or $20 of free play every month or so, and I have never gone in to do that. Now, if they gave me pick up $2,000 in free play, I would take the hit on my player's card or on my average daily theoretical, or more likely, play enough so that I kept getting these offers. It used to be they had some machines in various Caesars property in Las Vegas where the theoretical was grossly too high. So players would get, in my case, $3,500 a couple times a month for going in and playing enough on these machines so that your average expected loss was maybe $2,000. And you keep doing this over and over and over again, and you're going to like the results. On individual trips, you're going to have some losses. But if you get into that situation on a regular basis, it's going to be a good year. Last question before we get to our recommended. I ran into a hot shoe and ended up slightly ahead, more than $10,000 in 1 hour, on top of the approximately $2,000 in buy-in. I left the casino without incident. At the time, I didn't realize I was over $10,000 in winning until I got to my motel room and counted the money. I was not near home, so I decided to stay around for a while without playing, cashing out the chips. Over the next 2 days, I cashed out $1,500 multiple times. When the total reached about $10,000, they demanded ID, and I gave it to them. I eventually cashed out most of the chips. Was I structuring? What kind of trouble am I in? Is there anything I can do now to rectify this situation? Do you want to try this one first, Richard?
Well, Bob Nersessian has said on the show that if you are cashing out smaller amounts to avoid giving the casino your identity, that you're not structuring. That doesn't mean you couldn't be arrested for it or whatever, but it's in the past. I would not worry about it. I wouldn't try to do anything to rectify it.
Would you go back to that casino? Obviously, they have his name now.
Probably not. Unless, I probably would not.
Okay. Very good. All right. So we still have very, very few questions left in our mailbags. So we're going to beg our audience again to send us more questions at gamblingwithanedge@gmail.com. Richard has a Twitter feed at
RWM21.
And or some of you have our individual email address, ask away. So at the end of our show, we have a recommended section. Richard, do you have something to recommend to our audience?
Well, I was going to base my recommendation on one of the questions that didn't get asked. that was about restaurants in Las Vegas. So I'm just going to pick one of them. and that is a great breakfast / lunch place, coffee place called Makers and Finders, and it's down in the Arts District. And the Arts District is a really up and coming kind of cool neighborhood in Las Vegas, kind of in between the Strat and downtown Fremont Street. There's a lot of galleries and theaters and new restaurants and stuff. There's a lot going on there. That's where First Friday is, which is the first Friday of every month. There's a big outdoor, I don't know what to call it, to do, where all the galleries are open. You can wander around to different art galleries and stuff. So, Makers and Finders. Yeah, that's my recommendation.
So the Stratton downtown, it would be along Las Vegas Boulevard. There's also
This is actually on Main Street.
Main Street.
Right. Yeah, Makers and Finders is on Main Street.
Yes. All right. My recommended is a movie I saw on Netflix called Passing. The story concerns a black woman in 1920s Harlem who runs into a girlfriend from her childhood who is passing for white. To some degree, each woman yearns for what the other one has. The theme of racism runs throughout the film, but racism from 100 years ago seems not quite the same as racism today, although I'm a white person, and so what seems to be racism in my eyes may not be totally in sync with what a black person would do, would believe. I found it a thought-provoking piece. Passing. All right. We are through with our questions. Thank you, listeners, for sending them in to us. Thank you, Richard. Go out and hit lots of royal flushes, everybody. Good day.